Boomer, say hi. So, here we go. As you can see, the engine's out. I've been having some camera issues, but bottom line, I got the engine out. Wasn't terribly difficult getting the engine out. Took the intake off, broke a couple bolts right in front like I thought I would. Unfortunately, I got that fixed. I ended up doing, I had to drill it out, weld in new material, then I drilled and tapped that to get the bolts in. I still don't have the intake on because I wanted to work on the bottom end. Got the oil pan off. That was easy enough. And just for giggles, I pulled off a couple bearing caps, and crank looks great. Actually, I have the other one back on. Unfortunately, the bearings don't look that great. So I am going to install some new bearings today. So while I'm at it, I still have the old timing chain on, need to get that replaced. I've got a lot of stuff still to do to this, but I think at this point I have all the parts here. A huge pile of parts over here that I need to start putting on. So once I get all that going, I'll continue to film. Lots of good stuff over there though, and parts from my Bronco that have been taken off from the core sport. Anyway, as you can see, water pump's off right there. Oil pump is laying down there. Got a new oil pump, new water pump. So new water pump. Water pump bolts were nasty. So, I got all new bolts for that. You can see they're just corroded, and looks like at some point someone replaced that one anyway. But got all new bolts to go in there. Water pump passages don't look bad though. I'll get the still got to get the harmonic balancer off and get the timing cover off. That'll be next. I wanted to get the bottom end finished up first. So that's where we're at. Okay, so I'm going to talk about changing out my bearings. So I'm doing the Bang bearings right now. I've already cracked all of them loose. I've actually done the first 3, just wanted to make sure I was getting them in good. There's plenty of videos on YouTube about how to do this, but I'll show you what I'm doing. It's pretty simple. So I have them all cracked loose at this point. I'm going to take this one off, so it's all already loose, like I said. Notice the arrow on it that shows which direction it goes. You want to always keep it going the same direction. I even go so far as to put my bolts back in the same spot. So bearings weren't horrible on this one. On a couple of them they were, so that's why I decided to go ahead and change them. So as you can see, if you haven't done this before, there's a couple little tabs on it on one side only. So nothing on this side, and some tabs right there on that side. So all you have to do is pop these out. They're not terribly difficult to pop out. The one on the block's a little more tough, and I'll show you what I do for that. A friend of mine used to be a mechanic, and he told me to take one of the old bearings, flatten it out, and you can pop it in there and just kind of tap out the other one. Sometimes they're a little hard to get started, so very carefully I take a screwdriver, make sure I'm not touching the crank, and just tap it to get it started. And it's started. And then take the flattened out bearing, just start tapping, get it going a little bit, and once that's wedged in there a little bit, you can take I take needle nose vice grips, and pull out the old bearing. Once it's out a little bit, you can turn your crank over, kind of hold on to it a little bit, and usually they'll just slide right out. See it coming out right here. And it's out. Simple as that. And then you can take a look at your crank, make sure it's not damaged, and my crank looks great actually, so happy about that. Then you take your new bearing, lube it up with some fresh oil. I just have some 1030. If I had some assembly lube, I'd use that, but I don't have any assembly lube here right now, so got my fresh bearing lubed up. Again, pay attention to the right there's some tabs, so you got to go in opposite of those tabs so this way, so that the tabs slide right in. And again, what you can do to help things out, just rotate your engine a little bit, and of course it's not wanting to go in. There it goes. Just slide it right into place. Make sure the tabs go into the little slot. Then you take your bearing cap, slide your new bearing in after you clean it out. So just, again, they just snap in. Pretty simple. Throw a little oil on it, again, because I don't have any assembly lube. And then, paying attention to that arrow right there, goes towards the front of the motor. Bolts never came out, so they're in the same spot. And I just start them to make sure I'm in the right spot. And there you have it. One bearing replaced. I should mention, while the rear cap is off, I just threw on a new rear main seal. Goes on pretty easy without the cap in the way. It's nice and flush. I checked the condition of the crank before I put the new rear main in. It was just fine. There's nothing on there that I could catch a fingernail on, so no groove worn in it. So this seal works just fine. We'll note this is the Felpro one that's supposed to be installed dry, so no lube on it. Okay, so doing the rod bearings now. I've done the first two. What I like to do is put a mark on these. So the main bearings have an arrow and a number on them. The rod bearings don't have anything. So I just go ahead and grab my number punch. So I do the number and then an arrow. There's a 3. And I'll do a 4 on the next one that you can see. That did not come through very well. There, that's better. There's a 4. And then I just do an arrow so I know which way is to the front. So 4 and an arrow. Easy as that. And loosen these up. For the record, this is my old torque wrench. I just use it for a larger ratchet now. I have a good torque wrench to get accurate readings. I don't like using my impact to break things free inside the engine, so I just use it to go a little quicker. And then I just do it one at a time. Take the cap off. Set it aside. This is just some old shrink wrap. It's not old, it is now, but use that to protect the crank. Then pop out the bearing. Now, as you can see, that bearing is trashed. It's definitely time for some new bearings. Same with the mains. You just lube them up with some fresh oil or assembly lube if you have it. Pay attention to the little tab on it and toss it in. Just making sure to get those tabs lined up and pressed into where you want it to be. Just being careful not to nick your crank. And putting the cap back on, pull these off. Make sure it lines up with where you want it to go. And that's it. 190,000 miles on the timing chain. I think it's time to change it. A little stretched out. Alright, it is back together. As you can see, front end's all put back together. Still need to put in the end caps on the bumper. But everything else is back together. Got the new core support in, or at least new to me core support. That's not rusted out. New radiator cap, new water pump, new thermostat, all new hoses. The upper radiator hose is about a year old, so I didn't replace that, but every other hose, little hoses on the throttle body cooler is new heater hoses, everything's new. Looking good. Got the new water pump in, new oil pump, timing chain, new thermostat, all new gaskets, intake, and front and rear main. So lots of new stuff in here. I also swapped out to the different style intake tube. So that's goes straight out, and then it's more of comes through the grill here. More of a ram air effect, I guess. Those came in either the straight 6 or the 460s had those, so a little better design. Cleans up the engine bay so it's not sitting up. The old one came up and sat up on top, and I didn't like that. A couple of problems I've run into. I apparently cracked the bottom of my coolant reservoir. Got a nice little leak down there, so I need to take care of that. I ordered one of those. The big problem though is I stripped out my upper radiator fitting. I've got some new fittings coming. I'm going to drill it out, tap it for a little bigger size. So go to a 3/8 NPT, put some thread sealant on it, and then it has an inverted flare on the other side, so should work out. I think the biggest issue was this was supposed to be for a short fitting, and I had the long fitting from inline tube. So these are inline tube, brand new transmission cooler lines as well. So anyway, that's the biggest issue. So I've got ATF leaking out of that right now. And another big issue is it's running like garbage, not running good at all. I think my problem is these vacuum lines back here. Let's see if I can get a better shot of them. There's a bunch of them. But they go off that T right here on the intake manifold and feed some emission stuff. I know I broke one of them, and I fixed that one already, but I think there's some others that are broken. And so I think the vacuum leak is what's getting me. I'm going to have to do some more testing. The other problem is I'm going to have to do a little work on this little bracket I made. It doesn't quite fit with my new radiator, so that's not a big deal. I can fix that anytime. But I'm not getting any codes with the poor running, so that's why I think it's a vacuum issue. So I might just replace all those vacuum lines with new rubber lines, get rid of the plastic, and I'll do a vacuum test here before too long. I had to quickly throw this back together before I go on vacation with my family, so didn't get any video of it going back in, but that got done yesterday. I finished everything up, took it for a drive this morning, and yeah, I noticed it's not running real good, so stumbling a little bit. I'll get a vacuum gauge on it. I'm flying out here in about 2 hours, so I need to get ready for that. But just wanted to do a quick little video, finish up this actual video here, let you know that I do have parts on order to fix the little issues I've had, and hopefully in the next video I'll show you guys what I got. Alright, you guys have a good one.